I mean, you can never have too many medieval history book recommendations, right? Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this video, I just want to share some of my favorite medieval history books that I read in 2022 so far. And I don't even know, I guess, if I'd consider these, the best books or my absolute favorites per se. But when I was just trying to think of all the good ones that I read, these were like the first three that came to mind. And I think that, must mean something. I'll probably do my official, top three or top four, whatever, best of video probably in January. I usually do this video in the summertime, but be as it may, I didn't do any videos at all pretty much during summer, so we're getting it in October. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. And well, I said go ahead and get started. Actually, before we get to the first one, if you're here, you probably are interested in medieval history books, and which means you might have read some. Leave a comment down below of your favorite medieval history book read. I'm always on the lookout for good stuff, and just interested in see what everyone else is reading on different topics as well. But let's go ahead with the first one, and this one is going to be Medieval Bodies: Life and Death in the Middle Ages by Jack Hartnell. And what this book does is each chapter is devoted to a different body part. For example, the eyes or the feet, for example, and you kind of live the life through like a regular medieval person in relationship to sort of that part of the body. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but for example, with feet, he's kind of dealing with how did people actually get around, in medieval Europe, how far did they actually go for like traveling distances, and how often do people actually go from town to town, what was actually traveling, as an experience like, because that wasn't as common of a thing. Granted, it's not as like, it's definitely not as like, I guess not far-fetched, but, there's the whole kind of like myth that, you never left more than like 10 miles or whatever from the place you were born. That might not be exactly true, for example, but, going from one city to another across country, it was definitely a major undertaking as compared to, a lot of other time periods in history. The author does a really good job bringing in kind of wit and candor to all these topics. It's kind of a really good blending of history, kind of science, the medieval science and the medieval superstition, kind of combining it all together into just a really, really enjoyable read. And what's interesting too is Brandon's bookshelf today. He recently came out with the body tag about a week or two ago that I'm going to be doing at some point in the near future. And all I could think of was this book, because what Brandon did was take different body parts of the human body and make tag prompts out of them. And I was just thinking it's kind of like what the author of this book did, just with the history and everything. But definitely highly recommended, especially if you're into social histories, which I am. You definitely wanna, if you've read Joseph or Francis Guy's like Life in a Medieval Village, for example, those kinds of books. Very, I guess maybe not exactly kind of the same exact thing, but very similar in tone and not style, definitely not style, because this one's a little bit more, serious or whatever, but still well written. Whereas this one, like I said, has a lot kind of like wit and humor added to it as well. If you made it so far into the video, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the stuff, anything like that. The best way to support the channel, though, definitely check out my Etsy shop. I do have some medieval-ish I got a lot of like Norse Viking quotes and stuff, but even just like liking some of the items or favoriting the shop stuff definitely helps me out in the algorithm on Etsy. The freaking multiple platforms going on. But anyways, on to the next book, and it is Lost Heirs of the Medieval Crown: The Kings and Queens Who Never Were by J.F. Andrews. And I don't know, I think I listened to this one. Yeah, I listened to this one on audiobook. And I don't know, I was just like, I was looking for medieval history, and it kind of like showed up. I'm really glad I picked this one. I actually learned a ton. I mean, I read a lot of like medieval histories and stuff, but this one, as you could probably guess from the subtitle, is pretty much all the, I guess, royal lineages who either never panned out or were kind of like, offed before they could get to, the crown. Obviously in England is kind of like what we're dealing with. But yeah, definitely learned a ton. For example, like the White Ship with William Adelin. I knew a little bit about, the White Ship incident where the royal prince was kind of throwing a party and trying to cross the channel and the ship sunk and, things like that. But there is one figure, Empress Matilda, that I need to like go find like an actual full-length work on her. I guess I probably like come across her name and stuff in other medieval histories, but there's a chapter devoted to her escapades and stuff. She eventually becomes actually like the Holy Roman Empress in the Holy Roman Empire and whatnot. But she never she's going out, and by birthright she really should have been probably a Queen of England, but just was always kind of like a step behind in England for different reasons and all that sort of thing. But it was just really, really interesting, and I need to find an actual full-length biography of her in that. Some other characters that the boys in the tower definitely included. The Black Prince actually died before his father died, things like that. So lots of really cool, I guess, stories that either kind of get glossed over, maybe, I guess is probably the best way to put it, just because, they weren't the actual, the actual royal titles never given to them for different reasons. And for example, just one of the things, too, I just think about it, while listening to the book, is the whole concept of who actually just gets there first to, be crowned. Back then, before a lot of the the formal rules are established, that's literally the most important thing, is being physically present, just to be say I'm going to actually have the coronation ceremony. I don't know, it's just really interesting. If you enjoy English history, medieval European, I guess the royal histories, I guess that's kind of a thing, definitely check that one out as well. And lastly, we have William Rosen's The Third Horseman, a story of weather, war, and the famine that history forgot. And this is all about sort of the first couple of decades of the 14th century, so the early 1300s, and about a generation or two before the Black Death swoops across Europe. And he kind of goes into a lot of history. Obviously, we're dealing with the King Edwards and stuff. A lot of kind of different campaigns going on against Scotland, different kind of conflicts in France and stuff. But underlying all of this is just, I think I can't remember, in the first 20 years, there was 7 failed harvests, which, when we're talking, the Middle Ages, even 1 or 2 failed harvests in close proximity to each other is just, a catastrophe. And then when you have literally you're entering almost double-digit territory in one lifetime, it definitely shows how a lot of these campaigns were sort of affected actually by just logistics and supplies and everything, because there literally wasn't anything to be found in a lot of scenarios. I just have a little paragraph that I wanted to read just to kind of explain, I guess, demonstrate a little bit. By the end of 1315, moreover, the combination of Edward's taxes, the first of 2 lost harvests, and constant destruction of infrastructure, barns, farm equipment, and mills by the troops of both Bruce and Edward was devastating not only to the agricultural productivity, but the entire economy of both northern England and southern Scotland. Literally, dozens of lords in the Anglo-Scottish borderlands complained loudly to both Bruce and Edward of their near bankruptcies. As 1316 began an inquiry into the value of lands held by the lay lords in the borderlands, described estate after estate as waste, and not just cropland, the value of a typical fishery on the River Tweed, which might have been worth hundreds of pounds in 1300, fell anywhere from 30 to 100% by 1315. So it's just all forms of industry and agriculture. It just was a good kind of I guess vignette, or I guess lens on the actual the, what do they call the different classes of society. I can't remember what. There's the obvious thing the lords, those who fight, those who pray, and those who work. Those who work, they just had it out for them in the first half of the 1300s. I had read one other book by William Rosen. I think it was Justinian's Fleet, and I thought that one was just kind of okay, I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty middle of the road. But I read this one, found it really interesting, and he's got a couple other books on the Steam Age and stuff. So I might, if I ever kind of get into some early modern histories and stuff, I'll probably give that one a try, just because I know, like I said, it actually is better than I thought it was gonna be. Alright, so there's 3 medieval histories that I enjoyed so far in 2022. I got a couple panned out for November and December, and one more for the end of the month. Hopefully, if I can get to it in October. But let me know what you think of any of these titles down below. And don't forget to leave what your favorite medieval history book that you've read is. And thank you so much for watching. Whether you're reading medieval history or not, read victoriously.